Okay, so, I gotta get this back on. Was the video disturbing?
A little bit.
Yeah.
Do you think it was effective?
Yeah.
Probably. To get people to vote first?
Yeah.
No. Oh, no.
I mean, here, this was one from a candidate attacking his Republican opponent.
It's a little extreme.
Do you think it got the message across that the other guy you just can't trust, so that's why you have to vote for me?
No.
You don't think so?
I think you're just like, what?
I think it makes that guy look crazy.
Well, that guy was the sitting president.
Well, that's what it makes more like.
He won by a lot.
Who was it?
Lyndon Johnson. In 1964, he beat Barry Goldwater by a huge margin. Maybe that wasn't the thing that people remembered when they marked his name on the ballot, but he did end up winning in the long run. And we have talked about before about the effects of negative advertising, and that it really does work, even though people seem not to like it very much. All right, now, as we look at elections, the way that presidential elections are run and how they are conducted are slightly different than elections for other offices. Just like other offices, getting the nomination of your party through caucuses and primaries is one of the steps. It's one of the early steps after a candidate declares that they are running for president. Then after that, if they win enough primaries across the different states or caucuses, if you're like in Iowa, then eventually what happens is the summer before the general election, there's a national party convention. They'll get the endorsement of their party officially at that convention. Then they enter into the general election campaign against the other party's candidate. And after that general election, the way that works is it's not the popular vote nationwide that elects a president. The popular vote within each state, that winner then receives that state's number of electoral votes. And then the Electoral College officially meets, I think it's the third Wednesday in December, and they officially cast their Electoral College votes for the president. And it is those votes then that elect the president, not the popular votes from the general election. We'll talk more about that when we talk about the presidency in particular, but just to let you know that yes, that's how it is done. Okay, so I don't really want to go into all the minute details about the Electoral College because we will talk about it later. In that campaign, you'll also see that the candidates will oftentimes debate each other. Typically, the last few election cycles, it's been 3 face-to-face debates between the 2 major party candidates. But there's nothing written into law or stone that that's how it has to be. It's whatever the candidates mutually agree upon. The media definitely is going to try to portray the campaign as kind of like a horse race. They want to measure it at every single step of the way. And, okay, candidate X is ahead by, 3 lengths over candidate Y. Or, they're up a certain amount in the polls. Or with women voters, here's where they're at. Or with minority voters, this is the percentage of support they have. It is possible for a candidate to lose the presidency in the Electoral College, but still have more popular votes overall than the person that wins and becomes president. And it's probably happened about 5 or 6 times. So we can't say necessarily all that uncommon. Okay, so let's think about the last 3 presidential elections that we've had and how those campaigns and those elections turned out. In 2008, George W. Bush's second term was done. Term limited, could not run for another time as president. It was the first time since 1952 that no incumbent president or vice president was one of the party's candidates. Okay, in other words, the vice president for George W. Bush was Dick Cheney. Dick Cheney chose not to seek the Republican nomination. Therefore, there was no incumbent on that side as either president or vice president. Instead, the Republicans chose a guy by the name of John McCain, senator from Arizona, and Democrats chose a guy who was also a senator from Illinois, Barack Obama. This race began very early on to seek their party's nominations. Probably right about now is really, that many, 10 years ago is about when that was happening too. The race for the nomination began. One of the things that Obama was able to do was to really capitalize on some of the new forms of social media that were hitting the scene. Facebook was about this time. Twitter wasn't quite on the scene yet, but text messaging definitely was going to play a huge role. In fact, when Obama receives a Democratic nomination and he's announcing who his candidate for vice president is going to be, he had people sign up to receive a mass text message when he was going to announce who it was. And those people that signed up for that mass text message were going to get the news first, even before any of the reporters. So literally millions of people signed up to receive this text message, and it brought the cell phone carriers, it brought their systems crashing down, because when that message got sent and it was trying to hit to every single cell phone of the millions that had signed up for it, it caused kind of some problems for their infrastructure. Obama does win. In terms of campaigning, it was between the candidates themselves very civil. But there was definitely some negative campaigning from PACs that went on. And we did find that it was covered very much by comical news programs. The Daily Show with Jon Stewart was huge at this time. And people definitely like to tune in to watch Tina Fey portray the vice presidential candidate for John McCain, who was Sarah Palin that you see. That's not actually Sarah Palin on the left. That's Tina Fey pretending to be Sarah Palin. But they thought it was pretty funny. Then in 2012, Obama is the sitting president who is running for re-election. He is going to pretty easily defeat Mitt Romney, the Republican candidate. Obama, as a sitting president, faced no challenges from other Democrats to get the party's nomination. So therefore, in all of the time when Republicans were out campaigning to receive that nomination against one another, they were beating each other up, and it was costing them a lot of money to win that primary, or the collection of primaries. And Obama didn't have to spend money on that. So instead, he was able to kind of continue to raise money, but set that aside for when the Republican challenger emerged, they would have a lot more money to be able to spend during the campaign for the general election. And Obama was very effective in raising money. We get campaign contributions in unlimited amounts coming into both sides and really spending a lot to try to influence the outcome of the election. The campaign focused mostly on economic and domestic issues, especially the recovery, attempts to recover from the Great Recession of 2009, as well as the Affordable Care Act, also known as Obamacare. What was one of the biggest issues that exit polls showed in this last midterm election just on Tuesday? 6 years after this was healthcare. The same issues. So they haven't gone away. They're still of concern to people, and people want politicians to help come up with a solution. Then we had the election of 2016, the one that we probably remember best. Both parties' eventual nominees face very serious challengers from within their own parties. Bernie Sanders launched a aggressive campaign against Hillary Clinton for the Democratic nomination. And Trump had to defeat a slew of Republicans, including Ted Cruz from Texas, Scott Walker from Wisconsin, and there were even a few others that gave him some serious competition. Scandals and character issues definitely affected both candidates. For Trump, it had a lot to do with his exploitation of women at times, and also his dealings with donors from Russia. Clinton had to do more with using her government email for personal things and trying to conceal that. And both sides really tried to play into those. Trump wins despite Clinton receiving more popular votes. In fact, Clinton received something like 2 million more popular votes from across the country than what Trump did. However, Trump wins the Electoral College, therefore wins the election. Okay, questions on those?